Hello, this is Mr. Garza here, and today we'll be looking at factoring quadratics under the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills 10E for Algebra 1, factoring quadratics when they're in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So today we'll be looking at some of these examples. Previously, we've already looked at the a, b, and c value, the box method, but today we'll be looking at quadratics that have an a value that is not equal to 1. So we'll go ahead and get started with some of those examples right now. And it will be incorporating a reverse box method uh, of getting the factors of the trinomial. So for example, our first trinomial is going to be 2x squared plus x minus 6, and we will continue to use the AC method, the coefficient in front of x squared, 2 in this case, and the constant by itself, negative 6. We're going to go ahead and multiply those so we get a negative 12. And so now we need two numbers that will multiply to give us negative 12. However, when we add them, give us the b value. And the b value in this case is the coefficient in front of the x right here, which is 1. So what two numbers would those be? Well, we're going to go ahead and look at those two. It's going to be negative 3 and positive 4. So if we continue from what we've been doing on our cross puzzles, we know it's negative 3 and positive 4 that when we multiply us give us a 12, but when we add them will give us a positive 1. So the negative 3 and the negative 4 are going to be extremely important in finding the factors that go into this trinomial. So we're actually going to go ahead and start with a box, just like the box method. Now, from the original trinomial, we're going to go ahead and put the 2x squared term in the upper left-hand corner, so 2x squared. The constant, the negative 6, is going to go in the lower right-hand corner. And these terms, the negative 3 and the 4, those are going to be x terms. So we're going to go ahead and put those in the corners there. So negative 3x, because it's going to be with the negative 3, the sign matters. And then the 4x here. Now, what we need to do is basically work backwards, reverse FOIL, to find out, well, what are the factors that are going to be involved with this this trinomial here. So for example, if we go across, put my cursor here, if we go across here, we look at the 2x squared and the negative 3x. Well, the only term that they have in common is going to be an x term, so we can take one x out of those terms right there. You can't take anything out of the 2 or the negative 3. However, when we do go across here for the 4x and the negative 6, there are going to be some terms that we can look at, some factors between the 4 and the negative 6. What we can actually factor out of that is going to be a 2 out of those two terms. So we've got the x, the 4 and the negative 6, 2 can be factored out of those. Now if we go up from this term here, well, we know that they both have an x in common, so we can go ahead and put the x on top there. And now we look at the coefficients. We have a 2 here and a 4 here. What's going to be in common is going to be the 2, so 2x can actually be factored out of both of those. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the negative 3x and the negative 6. Well, they don't have an x term in common, but they do have the negative 3 in common. So the negative 3, I'm going to go ahead and put the negative 3 because that's what goes there. Now, one thing I want you to notice, whatever the sign is in this box here, that's what's going to be the sign that goes here. So here, and that goes the same for this box over here in the lower left-hand corner. Since it's positive, we're actually going to go ahead and put the plus for the positive 2. So that's very important. Whatever's in the corner, that's the sign that goes up there. Now, if we look at what's on top and what's going vertically across the side of this box here, those actually are the factors for this trinomial. So 2x minus 3, and we have x plus 2. If we were to FOIL this out like we did last time. 2x times x gives us the 2x squared. Those are the first terms. Negative 3 times a positive 2 gives us a negative 6, which is what we have here. This here, the negative 3x, or negative 3 times x gives us negative 3x, and 2x times the 2 gives us 4x, which is exactly what we have here. Negative 3x and a 4x, when you combine them, you get one positive x here. So let's go ahead and take a look at another example of the trinomials here. Let's go ahead and take a look at 4x squared minus 19x plus 12. Again, take a look at the, well, I said 12, so let's put a 12. Let's look at the AC method. So A4 times C12 gives us 48 there. So 48 is going to be the number that they multiply to. Let's do our cross puzzles here. And we need both of those terms to combine to give us negative 19. Well, the two terms that are going to be that are going to be negative 16 and a negative 3. Negative 16 times negative 3 does give us positive 48. And when you combine these, does give us a negative 19. So now we use these terms from the original trinomial and these terms on the left and right hand side of the cross puzzle here to go ahead and complete our box. So in the upper left hand corner always goes the original term, or the first term in the trinomial, 4x squared. The 12 goes in the lower right hand corner. And in the upper right hand corner we're going to go ahead and put the negative 3x, because it is an x term that goes there. Remember, the numbers over here, they just help us find out what the number is going to be. However, in the box in the upper right hand and the lower left hand will be x terms. And so now we can start from a different way. Let's say we go from the let's go up and down from the 4 and the 16. They do not, well, this should be a 16x. They do have two things in common. They're going to have 4 that you can factor out and an x term that you can factor out. So that's going to be 4x on the upper, or on top of the box there. And then we also have a, on the negative 3x and the 12 here, we're going to go ahead and put a negative 3, because remember what we said earlier, whatever the sign is in this box here, and here you can see it's a negative 3, so that sign goes up with it. And the 3 is something that can be factored out of both of those here. One thing, let's go back over here. Now we're going to look at another thing going across. You can't factor anything out of the 4 and the negative 3, but there is an x term that you can factor out, so that's the only thing that's going to come out of that side there. And same thing on this side here. There's no x terms that can come here, but there's a number that can come out, and the greatest common factor between 12 and negative 16 is going to be 4. Remember, whatever the sign is in the lower left hand corner, that's the sign that comes out. So that's a negative 4 that goes there. Now, the next thing is putting them in the parentheses. So we look at the top, 4x minus 3, close parentheses, open parentheses, x minus 4. Let's make that look like an x. Okay, now, before we go into foiling these binomials, let's take a look and see how this actually works in the square itself. If you notice, 4x times x does give us 4x squared. That works. Negative 3 times x does give us negative 3x. 4x times a negative 4 gives us negative 16x, and negative 4 times a negative 3 gives us a positive 12. So that's a pretty good sign that it's going to be working out just fine. But again, always follow through and make sure that your two binomials here, the 4x minus 3 and the x minus 4, do FOIL out or use distributive property. to give you the original trinomial. 4x times x does give us 4x squared. Uh, the last terms, negative 3 times negative 4 does give us a positive 12. Same numbers that we're getting from over here. Negative 3 times negative x gives us negative 3x, same as the box on the right hand corner. And 4x times the negative 4 gives us negative 16x. When we combine, well, let's put an x there. When we combine the two terms in the middle, we are going to get the negative 19x, and leads us back to the original 4x squared minus 19x plus 12. Let's make it look like a 12. Okay, and let's look at one last example. And on this example, we're going to be looking at, well, let's actually write it, 2x squared minus 4x minus 16. Now, if we follow the same procedure from before, we're going to go ahead and get the AC method, a2 times c negative 16, which gives us negative 32. So negative 32. And our middle term, our b, is going to be negative 4. So we need two values that give us, or two numbers that multiply to give you negative 32, but when you combine them, will give you a negative 4. Well, that's going to be negative 8 and positive 4. Negative 8 times positive 4 does give you negative 32, and negative 8 plus 4 gives you negative 4. So once we do that, then we can do the box method. Now, there's a reason why I'm going to be putting it over here on this side. I want you to notice what's going to happen here. If we go with the original procedure, 2x squared goes here, negative 16 goes here, negative 8x would go here, or the 4x, and 4x would go here. As long as the negative 8 winds up in the one of the corners and 4 winds up in the other, then you're good to go. Now, if we start taking out common factors here, notice just on this one here, I'm going to be able to factor out 2x from the vertical left-hand side. I'm going to be able to factor out a negative 8 from the vertical right-hand side. The horizontal top, I can factor out 2x. I have 2x in common. Remember the sign, that's important. And on the bottom, I have a plus 4, or positive 4, that I can factor out. It's like it's positive. Now, if we look at these terms, 2x, these binomials that are going to come out of here, 2x minus 8 and 2x plus 4, right off the bat, you should notice that my first two terms will give me 2x times 2x, which is 4x squared. Not what we need here. We need to get 2x squared from the original. In fact, if we were to do this one, it would give us 4x squared, and then the end would give us the negative 32. Again, not what we need. We need the negative 16. And combining these two, we'd get a negative 16x. Let's put that there, negative 16x. And then in the middle term, we'd also get positive 8x, which would give us 4x squared minus 8x minus 32. Nowhere near the original one there. Well, there is a reason why this method didn't work for this problem. I need you to look at the factors for A, B, and C. If A, B, and C have a common factor, that needs to be taken care of first. So 2 is the common factor here. So what that means is 2 comes out. I have an x squared left. I have a minus 2x, and I have a minus 8 for the term here. Now, what we would do is the same box method. So all of this stuff over here, let's go ahead and select all of this, because this did not work out. We had to do that factoring to get it right. So all of that, gone. Now, what we really need though is to go ahead and do the AC method on this trinomial in here. So 1 times negative 8 gives us negative 8. That's going to go on the top of the cross puzzle. Negative 2, the b value, goes on the bottom of the cross puzzle. And so now we need two values, or two numbers that multiply to give you negative 8 and add to give you negative 2. Well, that's negative 4 and a positive 2. Now we can do our box. Once we complete the box, now we put the x squared in the box here. We put the negative 8 in the lower right hand side. 2x goes here, negative 4x goes here. And if you'd like, since you already know what those terms, they're positive or negative, in the upper and lower, upper right hand corner, lower left hand corner, go ahead and put the sign there. You already know what it's going to be, so you can put that there. Or if you'd like to wait until you have all your factors, it's up to you. However, let's go ahead and start factoring these things out. An x can come out of the vertical left. A 2 can come out of the vertical right. Horizontal, the top is going to be just an x by itself. And on the bottom, we're going to have a negative 4 that comes out there. So now, in the parentheses, we would have x plus 2 as one of the binomial terms, and x minus 4 as the second binomial term. Now, if we multiply just those two right there, we will get x squared minus 2x minus 8. Well, remember, we need to get the original 2x squared minus 4x minus 16. Well, for that, that's where this 2 comes along. And you just put it right in front of that one there. So here are the examples that show how to factor a trinomial when the a value is not equal to 1. Alright, we'll be going over applications of this in class. This is Mr. Garza saying I'll see you later. Bye-bye.